Hopefully I did this right. All right. It's thinking. It wants to help us out here. I think it just goes right to it. So where's the camera? There it goes.
It takes a minute.
Excellent connection.
Oh, good.
Excellent. Excellent.
So we're there. All right, let's give it a few minutes so people can creep on into the chat.
Now, do you need to see the chat? Yes, you do.
Yeah, I need to be able to see.
Now,
oh, and you moved the screen closer so I can actually read the comments.
Just
Yay.
see how that works better.
That looks,
there's people. Nora Wallace is
Nora,
jumping in.
Jeffrey.
Nice.
Hey, guys. We're just getting started here for the after party.
Woohoo! The hangover.
The hangover.
You don't have to be, and you don't have to be hungover to be in the hangover, but
no, it's
doesn't hurt.
It's just a funny title.
Yeah, it's after the show. It's
there's
over show.
Miss Connie Cleary. She says hello again, Jennings.
Hello there.
Hello there, Connie.
William Rusho. Hello, William.
Hey, William. So this is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people interested in talking about this topic last week.
Yes, we did. So we're going to talk about it tonight, baby. We own it.
And while we're waiting, while we're giving people a few minutes to creep on into the chat, let's explain ourselves for the random YouTubers that might find us or stumble upon us online. Okay,
let's do that. Hey, for the record, I am Grimm Gorri.
The monkey.
The monkey. Well, yeah. I mean, that's obvious, right?
In case if they
maybe
didn't
not.
know.
Who knows? And you are? Who are you?
I'm Janet the Mummy.
Janet Decay.
Janet Decay the Mummy.
The whole name. And together we host
the Mummy and the Monkey's Hairy Scary Hangout.
That's on Facebook.
Friday nights on our Facebook page. And yeah, we play a cheesy B movie. He puts sound effects in the movie. And it's a lot of fun. We do prize giveaways and people send pictures.
Mr. Cool Dude 964 says been working overtime. Sad to have missed the Mummy and the Monkey. Glad to be here now. Yeah, and you know, you can always go back to the Facebook page after it uploads and check out all of our archived videos on our video tab. There's over 112 shows on there. About 100. Well, yeah.
Yeah, you could always watch the replay. Yeah, there's
if you're into that kind.
If you'd like, yeah, there's a lot of videos in the archives. 112 episodes now.
And that's some binge watching.
And then on our YouTube, we've been trying to upload a video every day. We did miss a day, but that's okay. I did upload something earlier, a behind-the-scenes video. So we have our Mummy Monkey stuff, and then we have like behind-the-scenes videos and reseller vlogs.
Everyone's hooking up in the chat there. They're saying, hey, what's up to each other. Yeah, it must be...
Ellen's here. Hello, Ellen.
There's James Musgrove.
And there's James. Hi, James.
Here comes Mama Monkey coming through the set. Hi, Mama Monkey.
Hi, Mama Monkey.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And Patrick says, bring your own riffs. Yeah, when you watch the movie show on our Facebook page.
That's right.
People can make fun of the movies. They can chat with each other, joke around. It's a lot of fun.
Now, and look who else stopped in.
Oh, Dino's here from the Late Late Horror Show. Hey, Dino. They do some awesome movie reviews. Dino, Ted, and Kelsey. And they also play really cool old-timey radio shows like murder mysteries and horror-themed stuff, sci-fi.
Hours and hours of stuff. I mean, the internet is a wealth of entertainment that just opened up so much cool stuff. I remember when YouTube was struggling when they came out. They were, because the streaming wasn't there. The actual the
when
ability
YouTube
to stream.
Come out, like 2007,
like the mid to late 2000s.
And I think you could only have short videos on
10
there.
minutes.
Like 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
And even then, it took forever to upload things, and it took and the streaming of it was horrible.
So YouTube has definitely evolved. It's not perfect, but we do like it. It's a great way to connect with people and do these little shows.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got some people here. The theme for tonight is 80s horror films.
Oh.
80s horror movie stuff.
The 1980s.
1980s, not 1880s.
Right.
Not like 2080, because,
The future, sure. Because that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, we'll probably be gone by then, but...
Probably, sadly, but, but maybe the show will be archived in some, horror host sort of, museum. Who knows?
Maybe we'll be ghosts.
Maybe.
Or reborn into a different creature.
I want to be buried, like be one of those tree pods that grow a tree. You know what I'm talking about? I've seen those. So it might be a tree.
That
Ooh.
would be interesting.
Okay, so they're just like right out of the gate, boom. 80s horrors. Let's focus here.
Yeah. Okay, back to the topic.
All
Okay,
right.
so 80s horror films.
films.
So 1980, 1981, 1982. So it was like you had the grindhouse era, 70s and early 80s. Those like gory, like weird independent movies, the exploitation films, all that stuff. And the 1980s had some continuation of that, and then it went from like, the 70s grindhouse into like a ton of slasher movies. I mean, and there's other weird stuff too. It's like, where do we start with this?
And there's Earl. What does Earl have to say about 80s movies? Come here, Earl.
Earl doesn't know. He's
Oh.
like, whatever, I'm a cat.
Yeah, so 80s horror, to me, that's a very sweet spot because that's when I started really, really getting into the horror movie genre. Only because it really exploded then. I mean, and it wasn't just one kind of like slasher movie. Like it wasn't just slashers.
Like slashers were huge, but then there was other stuff too, like the ghost story movies, the supernatural, supernatural stuff, that aliens and sci-fi.
Yeah, and it bled over into comedy with Ghostbusters and stuff like that, and Beetlejuice.
Yeah, and a lot of stuff kind of was, like all connected.
So they're already the audience is already like getting crazy with all these things.
They're just like naming stuff
Oh
off.
my gosh, it's hard to pull back. So we got to start.
Jennifer Delaney says she loves 80s horror movies.
Yeah, Sleepaway Camp,
Sleepaway Camp,
which was obviously a spoof on all of the slasher campground movies, especially the Jason Friday the 13th ones.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really, the first one is amazing. It's so good.
Yeah.
If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor. If you're a fan of like Friday the 13th and slasher movies in general, and again, it very things like Stranger Things that they do now. That pays homage to this kind of stuff that we're talking about.
That's true. What's popular right now on Netflix, like Stranger Things and shows, there's a lot of TV shows right now that take place in the 80s.
Yeah.
What are those, like, what's that one called? Is it Mixed-ish or the Goldbergs?
Oh, the Goldberg.
There's like, I can think of like a couple of them where they take place in the 80s. There's Young Sheldon. I think that takes place in the 80s.
They're mired in the 80s, yeah.
Yeah. And
So
80s pop culture had a huge, like, horror was a huge impact on it, a big part of it.
So everyone out there is really naming some really good ones. I mean, stuff that you wrote down, stuff that you didn't write down, like the Fun House, Basket Case.
Oh, Basket Case! I forgot about that one. Thank you, Nora.
What about Chopping Mall?
Chopping Mall. Well, and that goes into the whole mall culture too. The mall has it all. That was the thing. You would go and meet your friends at the mall.
And there was even a zombie movie that took place at Monroeville Mall in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, all those zombie movies. And...
Yeah. So the 80s was really a huge decade for horror movies of different, not genres because it was a horror genre, but different types, different sort of like niches of within the horror movie. Zombies were really big in the 80s. Like huge.
Yeah, zombies like Return of the Living Dead.
The Fulci zombie movies.
All of those, yeah.
I mean, the movie Zombie was awesome. I love that movie.
My Bloody Valentine, says William. That's a good movie. Yeah.
Oh, Mother's Day. Does anyone remember that movie?
I don't remember that one.
That movie is crazy. We need to watch that movie. I mean, you'll be appalled, but it's good. It's almost like Gator Bait. Remember that? That's another one. Gator Bait.
That one I haven't seen either.
Oh my gosh! There's so many movies where the woman or I Spit on Your Grave.
Oh, that movie's really messed up.
Yeah, the original.
And then they did some remakes.
The remake was even more messed up.
Yeah, it's like too messed up.
Oh, and you forgot one big one. Come on.
Which one?
Evil Dead.
Yeah, well, it's on my list. I didn't get to the list.
Oh,
but yeah, Evil Dead, 1981. So yeah, movies from like 1980, 81. That was like the start of these 80s horror films. But it was also like the sort of like the end of that whole Grindhouse movie thing. So it was this kind of overlapping.
So yeah, they're going crazy. I mean, they bring up so many crazy memories for me, and all of us. Motel. It's not hotel. It's Motel Hell.
Motel Hell.
Another disturbing one.
Ooh, yeah.
Scanners.
Yeah.
That's like
Scanners.
That Full Moon Entertainment. They would put all those like crazy movies like that. The Hitcher. That's a really, really good movie. If you've not seen that, you've never seen.
What's
Hitcher.
that one comment? I seen I spit on your grave. She had no mercy. Oh, that you could show.
Yeah, why they?
I don't know why
the word
that.
spit. I think it's strangely enough.
Oh, maybe they thought that it was a.
Yeah, who knows?
That's
no,
okay.
I think the word
Yeah,
spit
that could be shown.
Could be construed as something. Creep Show, you had that written down.
Yeah,
I mean,
Creep Show is one of my favorite 80s movies.
One you haven't.
But there's so many I like because there were so many good movies in the 80s. It seemed like an experimental time for movies and music, pop culture and fashion. That whole thing.
It's funny because I'm trying to jump in here before someone says things like The Gate.
The Gate, I have not seen.
That movie is so. It's very again one of
I
those
heard
movies,
good things about it.
Yes, it's one of those movies that Stranger Things wants to be, you know. And Stranger Things don't get. They did a great job with that series. I love.
I love that series
because it hit a lot. You know, it touched on a lot of different aspects of different types of movies and things, and even the actual lifestyle of an '80s kid back then. Riding on the bikes in the neighborhood, and, you know, and then you better get your butt home when the street light goes off, or goes on, that's when you go home. Things like that. Basket Case Pumpkinhead was right at the end there, I think, in the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I mean...
So, okay, Sleepaway Camp was 1983.
Right.
Christine, 1983.
Oh.
Poltergeist, 1982. So there's some early 80s.
Carrie, was that an 80s movie?
Here's a really gross out one. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980.
Yeah, but that's more... That was more underground. I don't think that was a mainstream movie.
Well, no. We're not just talking about mainstream movies.
I know, but I think
we're talking about all different 80s horror movies.
I would say that was probably right there with Faces of Death. I mean, it was like one of those movies
was that 80s?
Yeah.
I thought that was 90s.
No. That was
okay,
80s.
Maybe late 80s.
I remember Videodrome. Oh wow, that's a great.
The Howling. Oh, there you go. Chud. That's like 84, 85.
Now I just sold on eBay Chud 1 and 2 on VHS tape to somebody overseas. They bought it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's going overseas. I don't know where. I could look it up at some point. But yeah, someone purchased it, and I think it went for like $60 for both of them.
And with the horror movie stuff, so you also had. Isn't that when they started delivering pizza in the 80s? Like you would call to get a pizza delivered to your house?
They didn't do it before then?
I don't remember.
I don't know that. Wow.
I think it was the 80s from asking like more experienced people who remember that time.
I never thought about it, but I could go back.
So think about that. You had the malls, you had the pizza delivery, you had the movie stores like Blockbuster,
video rental stores,
Hollywood Video.
Now those didn't start until probably the mid 80s.
Mid 80s?
Yeah.
So you had this great combination of before you had to go to the movie theater to see your movies, but then there was like all this straight to video stuff and the awesome like cover art on the VHS, boxes, and you could get your pizza delivered and go to the movie store and pick out a movie.
William Rusho said,
it was like a whole new thing then.
Yeah, Night of the Comet. And now it's a dead thing, but it'll come back. I'm sure video rentals will come back somehow, some way. Physical media could come back, and there's a whole thing with.
There's still people that like physical media.
How many of you out there collect movies still, whether on DVD, Blu-ray, or VHS?
I do.
We do all those formats. Digital, like we have stuff on, just sitting on a hard drive. Stuff sitting on videotapes. Where do you have? We have VHS tapes here.
Yeah, and then this goes into I was going to talk about that next. But yeah, there's an Elvira VHS, and she hosts Dead of Night. But this is, look at that box art. Yeah. This is cool.
And again, another spinoff of the 80s was, like you're saying, that the horror host, that was like the last, the big gasp before it kind of went upside down until it started coming back.
Yeah,
but the 80s was like the last gasp.
So you have like in the 50s and 60s those great horror film hosts like Vampira, Zachary.
Right.
Here in Cleveland we had Goularty for 3 years. So then in the 80s there was like a little bit of a resurgence or a comeback of that. Like Elvira, here in Cleveland, Big Chuck and Little John were still going strong. Super hosts. So each city had their own late night movie host, and a lot of them continued on in the 80s. Fritz the Night Owl and Columbus.
Right, and so horror hosting kind of peaked probably then, and then it kind of went underground.
Away in the 90s a little
went
bit.
Underground, it was hard to find, and it was wasn't as
kind of faded away in the 90s, and then
because of cable television and a lot of the I would say a lot of the the quality of TV programming was up by computer technology, and so you had shows like Star Trek: Next Generation and things like that where they were taking over and back then too in the late '80s, early '90s, syndication was a huge thing. Where if you got the right deal, like the Seinfeld people, they made so much money on syndication. It's crazy. I mean, if you know about that, you understand that's a truth. And not so much anymore. Syndication is pretty much now when you sign up for these TV shows, they pretty much say this is what you get paid and that's it, from what I understand. And syndication it doesn't really fit in your contract anymore. But it was really big then. So I think a lot of that took over a lot of local television. And so on and so forth. But now with the internet is almost like local TV in a way.
Yeah.
So the Critters, The Fog, that's one you wrote down too. Wow. There's one, and here's another.
Albert says, was that Earl or Louie? That was Earl.
That was Early O.
That was little Earl.
Yeah.
He let me hold him for a minute, but he's not that cuddly.
Yeah, Michael Craig says Demons, 1985, directed by Lamberto Brava. That's a good movie. That's a really scary movie.
There's so many good ones you guys are listing off.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Oh my gosh, what a bizarre movie.
A good chunk of them I've seen. But there's still so many more I need to see.
Was Child's Play? That was late 80s.
Child's Play was like 87, 88. Oh, yep. Ghoulies.
Yeah, Freddy Krueger, of course.
Of course, Nightmare on Elm Street and
now, I remember going to
Friday the 13th.
I saw that movie. I'm pretty sure I saw the first one at the Standard Theater. And that was downtown Cleveland. That theater's long gone, and the whole area was on Standard Theater was on Prospect and Avenue. Where when I went there, it was a totally different place, but now it's all built up. And but I remember seeing that movie with John Saxon. Johnny Depp was in that movie as well.
Everyone likes Johnny Depp.
They do. Oh,
Woo.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, so I remember seeing that movie and how. And when everybody, and when I say everybody went to this movie, all colors, nationalities, everything, and it blew everybody's mind. It's so hard to create a new, and they're trying to do it all the time now in movies, but to create like a monster, like a Jason or
like a monster that's that popular,
Michael Myers,
like a movie bad guy.
Very difficult, but I think it was pulled off by Wes Craven, and really good. I mean, he's still around today.
And another thing, like with the horror films, so Stephen King was super popular in the 80s. He's still popular now, but I mean so you had The Shining and Cujo and Christine.
Well, and Cat's Eye was another.
Cat's Eye, yeah.
Bobby Harvey Jr. is talking about that.
All these great Stephen King movies,
yeah,
and some of them not so great, but they were still enjoyable.
Here's one of my favorites from the 80s. Does anyone remember The Stuff? Yeah, I got some right here. Gonna have a little late night snack tonight. But The Stuff.
Don't eat that stuff.
Totally. I mean, it's almost a take on The Blob, and
it's a Blob type of a movie.
It's a Blob meets like food. A greedy. Actually, I think what happened was they unearthed some of the stuff that was ancient, and it's a living organism, like yogurt, right?
Yeah, different enzymes.
Except it has an agenda, like a virus. It takes over people and turns them into more stuff.
And Anthony says trauma movies. So a lot of trauma movies started in the 80s, and trauma entertainment started in the 80s, I believe.
It did.
I don't know the exact year.
Yes, it did, because
I should know this.
I remember renting Toxic Avenger.
Toxic Avenger.
And this was, this type of movie was totally different than things that you saw in the theater.
Oh yeah, independent, cheesy, goofy,
gory,
but
goofy gore,
just really fun.
Over the top.
And if that goes back to the video store, so you wouldn't normally see movies like that in a movie theater.
No.
But when you're going through the video store, checking the artwork on those boxes, and you see Toxic Avenger, you're like, what the heck is that?
The funny thing, when I would go to video stores, I would gauge what movie I would rent by the cover art, and then with the pictures on the back. Where if they were lame, I wouldn't get them usually, because it wasn't going to be good lame. It was going to be just horribly
just
boring.
Lame.
A lot of padding, a lot of talking, or no action, no nothing. Yeah, they're naming more trauma movies. Kabuki Man,
Sergeant Kabuki Man in Love.
Class of Nukem High, all the classics. Now, all the trauma stuff that comes out now, and some people pronounce it trauma, but it's trauma.
Trauma.
Yeah, it's an O, not an A.
Trauma video.
They license a lot of stuff now, and they sell it that way.
Yeah, a lot of indie filmmakers will actually send them stuff, and they'll work out a deal for distribution.
Deal, yeah.
So they don't make a lot of their own movies anymore. And I heard they're making a new Toxic Avenger.
Wow.
Like an all-new one with like a big budget.
I hope it looks like
so
cheesy.
I hope it's not botched too much. Like I hope it's good.
Yeah, not too overly produced.
Yeah.
James Muscarella says Attack of the Killer Tomatoes now.
Oh, that movie's fun.
Oh,
that was 80s, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get through.
So that's a horror film, but it's a horror comedy. You know.
Yeah, it's obviously. I mean, the title gives it away, right? Although there's a movie out has nothing to do with the 80s called Rubber. That's about a tire that kills people.
Yeah, I still need to see that.
And I've heard it's awesome. So that's what's related to the killer tomato. Because those tomatoes they're not actual monsters with faces. It's just literally a giant tomato or little tomatoes that kill people. They just roll around and kill people.
The Thing.
That was oh my gosh, what a great
I'm
movie.
reading
Kurt
the different
Russell.
titles people were sending.
Toxie, rumored to be The Rock. Oh no.
Oh no.
Well, why not? I can
well,
see
that might be fun.
He's got that kind of like peanut
yeah,
head.
maybe he'll make a good
No
Toxie.
offense, Rock. No offense, Rock. From one handsome guy to another. Just.
So then you had like
Oh, Tomatoes was 78. Doesn't count.
Oh,
I thought it was.
Well, maybe
earlier.
the sequels were 80s.
They were, but now I don't know if I mentioned already. I might be repeating myself. I hope I'm not. But there's a movie, a very little known movie, called Saturday the 14th, with Richard Benjamin.
Oh, you told us about that.
Did I say it tonight already?
Not tonight. Okay. But no, I remember you telling me about it.
That movie is really weird and good.
That's another one I need to see.
Now, the movie House with William Catt and Bull from Night Court.
Yeah, that I know.
That's a good one. Now, what about that Japanese movie House? Was that made in the 80s?
That was 70s.
Oh, earlier.
That was a 70s movie. Like late 70s.
Bizarre movie.
Yeah, that's that weird Japanese movie with the crazy aunt that like the house is haunted and she's possessed or something.
One of my favorite 80s movies that doesn't get a lot of praise, or it does within the people that know it, is called Ghost Story.
Ghost Story.
Oh my gosh. I have it on VHS, but you haven't seen it yet.
I think I have seen that.
Fred Astaire. It's about a bunch of old guys that are around. I think I've seen
that one.
Was Ghost Story 80s? I think it might have been early 80s.
That might have been early 80s.
Like super early.
I'd have
80s.
to double check on the Google.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So back to the 80s.
We did have someone mention Hellraiser earlier.
Oh, yes.
I did see a Hellraiser comment. I love the Hellraiser movies.
Who doesn't love Hellraiser?
But that was late 80s, like 87, I believe. And that's another great author, Clive Barker.
Yes.
So the Hellraiser series.
People Under the Stairs.
Yeah.
Another good one.
That's a good movie.
And I remember seeing that in the movie theater, like sitting down and watching. I mean that. I don't remember what I had for dinner for yesterday, but I remember seeing that, seeing the smells. It's really weird what you kind of remember, like what your brain wants to retain.
See, a lot of these movies I ended up watching on videotape later or watching them on TV. Yeah. I was an 80s child, but I don't remember going to see these.
Yeah, Chuck B. I will have to hunt down a copy of Ghost Story, the book. I would love to read the book because I do love the movie. It's so messed up, but so good. Very gothic, old timey. It has to do with the 20s. Mm-hmm. And then it's a bunch of old men that have a secret that and I won't say anything more than that, but it's really, really good. It's messed up. It's a really good ghost story.
Ghost Story was 1981, says William. Thank you,
Okay,
William.
good. So it was like, I remember
they're checking for
early
us.
80s. Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Now, okay, so, and this is sci-fi, but it's still a movie that really, besides Terminator, of course, even Predator was in the late 80s. Crazy, right? But Aliens, the second movie, the sequel to the first movie.
Those are 80s.
Directed by James Cameron, a brilliant standalone, like that movie. You don't even need to see the first one or any ones after that.
Oh, when did Dead Alive come out? Was that 80s?
I was going to mention that too. Yeah, now come on. Now
Dead Alive, I loved.
Dead Alive was definitely 80s.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. It was like when the Feebles came, like a little after the Feebles came out. Directed by Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Rings guy. Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Peter Jackson last week.
If you've never seen Dead Alive, you've got to see it. It's over the top gore like you've never seen before.
It's like Evil Dead, but with a lawnmower.
Yeah, it's
instead of Ash with a chainsaw, it's like this guy with a lawnmower.
It's super cartoony.
It's really fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, you guys would like it.
The Keep isn't on DVD. Yeah, The Keep is a really. I think that's the movie. If I remember, is that about the about Nazis or something like that? I think that it's. I
That
think
one
that's
I
the
don't.
movie, yeah.
I don't think I'm.
I think it has a sort of a Nazi connotation, but it's like but it's definitely supernatural horror.
Yeah.
I come in peace, but you leave in pieces. That's Dolph Lundgren. That was an 80s movie. Oh boy, what a horrible movie.
They Live.
That doesn't count.
They Live was late 80s, and that was like sci-fi and horror combined.
Good movie.
That's an amazing movie.
Although everyone to this day talks about the 20-minute alleyway fight between Roddy Piper and the other actor in there. It's like the most drawn-out fight scene you've ever seen for no apparent reason other than just to be. It seems like it goes on forever. It's the goofiest thing. But what a great idea.
And other shows have like mimicked that. Or
The Dead Pit. Yeah, that's a really weird one that a lot of people don't know about. That's a good one.
Let's see.
Yeah, I have to look. I think I have the Keep on. Actually, I think I have it on VHS for some reason. I can see that logo in my head.
Oh, Fright Night with the vampire living next door.
My favorite.
That's like mid 80s.
It's in my top 10 for sure.
And then the horror host Vampire Hunter.
Yeah, I mean it has horror hosts.
It has a horror host in it.
Roddy McDowell.
And it's 80s horror. And what I love also about these movies, a lot of the effects were practical effects.
Yes.
They used actual like animatronics, special effects with the blood and stuff. They did their own makeups. They didn't rely on CGI. They had to be creative with whatever they could create. And to know that like some of these creations, some of those props are still around and that people actually put the time in to this is very cool.
So there's a lot going on here. I'm trying
a ton of comments.
It's awesome.
You guys are chatty. I love it.
Willard. Okay. Poltergeist. Now you didn't see that movie. You said up until like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I watched that with you for the first time a few weeks ago. I got it confused with another movie. There was like House and Ghost Story, and I thought I already saw Poltergeist, but I didn't.
But the funny thing is that we're watching this movie and they're talking about the house and how it's haunted. And like I'd say, less than halfway through the movie, you're like, "What's wrong? Indian burial ground, old cemetery." I'm like,
I'm like listing off I can predict some of these.
But
movies.
Don't forget that came out before. That a lot of things copied that movie.
Right.
You saw all that stuff.
Yeah.
That was one of the original movies that came out where people were like, oh, that's because all these developments were popping up that are still around. That's when the developments and suburbs were really popping up back then.
Right.
And they must have based it on something that must have happened because anytime you hear about some development
well, there
company,
were true stories of like developments being built on burial grounds.
Sure, and they didn't relocate the bodies and things like that, right?
Yeah, and the bodies were still there, and
That's
people are finding like bones in their backyard and stuff.
So it's funny.
Or their house is haunted.
But you've seen so much stuff since then that use that as the basis of it. It was because of Poltergeist a lot of people started making movies about things being buried or built where they shouldn't be.
And I mean to say native burial ground.
Yeah. So anyway,
not Indian, Native American.
Maniac Cop, man. The first one's great. I mean, from what I remember, there's a couple more after that.
Christmas Evil, that's a good one.
All of Gremlins, yeah. Of
Gremlins,
course.
yeah. Gremlins is cool because it's like a horror film but with these little creatures. It's very creative. And Beetlejuice, so Tim Burton started his popularity in the 80s with Beetlejuice, Frankenweenie, not horror related, but Pee Wee Herman, He did direct Pee Wee Herman, the Pee Wee movie.
Here's something relevant and sort of contemporary is Young Frankenstein.
That's a fun
brilliant monster movie.
Yeah.
Cloris Leachman was in it, who just passed away recently. Rest in peace, Cloris. But she had a great role in that movie. But that movie, Young Frankenstein, by I can't think.
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks.
Yeah, Mel Brooks.
Amazing movie. Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, it's just so good, so good. Brain Damage. That's what I had.
That's us, yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Whoa.
Anthony Garcia. Oh, one of my favorite movies of the 80s. Silver Bullet. Stephen King short story.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got Fred, what's his name from Wonder Year. Oh, no, it's Corey Haim. It plays the young kid in the wheelchair, and his
He's
uncle
not around anymore, is he?
Corey Haim passed away.
Yeah, he passed away. I want to say maybe 10 years ago.
Not that long ago, I don't think, but around that time. Yeah, you might be right.
It might have been around 10 years.
It might have been about 10 years, but it was but Gary Busey as the uncle, so good. I mean, that movie is beautifully done, and there's this whodunit, who's the werewolf movie in the town, the small little town. If you haven't seen Silver Bullet, please, it's such an amazing 80s horror movies, and it's based on a short Stephen King short story.
So, and with the 80s, you had the goths. There was 80s goth music that came out around that time, and people getting into watching silent film and watching the Universal monsters again on tape. So, like with the VHS, it really did help. So, like, there's the Mummy on VHS.
Show what a tape looks like, too.
Here's what a real tape looks like.
Is there anybody out there that has never
for
seen
any youngster that might be watching?
Or just anybody that just hasn't been around? I mean, I think everybody tonight's definitely knows
this is a real videotape.
But when we're
but we
thrifting,
never know who's watching.
there might be people out there that when they've been to a thrift store, we've heard this multiple times. There'll be a young kid in there with their parent or grandparent or whatever, and they'll go, "Mommy or Grandpa, what's this?" And I just feel like, seriously? I mean, I'm that old that this little kid has no idea, obviously.
Right.
I mean, there was stuff, obviously, I didn't know when I was a kid that existed before. I get all that. But it's just really wild, when something that was so important to you growing up is so obscure to anyone that might have missed that generation of stuff. It's just wild. It's a crazy thing. The Godsend, I don't know that one. Huh.
The Craft, that was 90s. The Craft was 90s.
Yeah, none of that.
I think that was 94.
That was all that Nev Campbell stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about 90s horror films maybe next week if you guys want to. There are some good ones from the 90s, but not as interesting as the 80s.
Tim Bennett. Tim.
What the heck is that thing, a VHS?
Yeah. Tim Bennett says...
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
Ooh,
okay.
Trick or Treat. Yes. That's an amazing movie.
Yes! And not so much.
It's cheesy, but it's... In my mind, it's amazing.
The problem I have with that movie is the ending is just so... It doesn't deliver. The first 3/4 of the movie is amazing, like so cheap. When if you can rent this movie called Trick or Treat, it's got Gene Simmons in it, Skippy from Family Ties is in it. He's the lead guy. But it's if you watch this movie, you'll see and then if you're familiar with anything that they try to recreate now that's very 80s like, you'll see this. But this is what they're basing it on. It's a perfect. At least the first.
This record summons a demon.
Oh my gosh, rock and roll
goodness.
is like possessed kids and demons come out of the record. This rock and roll guy and
this like heavy metal demon.
But all the nerd stereotypes in there, perfect. All the jock stereotypes. I mean, it's exactly what they base all these like remakes and things on. But story wise, I mean, so the movie itself is good for that reason. But I just wish that would have had a little more of a punch of an ending or. I don't know. It just
I didn't like how the movie ended.
We were actually like, oh, that's all. That's what happened.
Yeah, but
I'm not gonna say what they did. But it's like
everything else was good.
It's beautiful.
It was
immaculate.
fun.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's great. Pumpkinhead. I watched that recently.
I didn't like it.
I mean, the creature was great. I mean, that creature was a Stan Winston creation. It was an amazing creature.
The effects were cool. Like, it was fun to watch, but it wasn't. I don't know. I didn't think it was that great.
Now, if you want good effects from the 80s, what about American Werewolf in London? Ooh, that had
the transformation scene.
That had groundbreaking Rick Baker special effects, right? The wizard of all, the guy that everybody loved growing up.
All the little details, like in the hair and the
hair
skin
coming
and
out.
Oh, it just looked so cool.
The muzzle, the painful thing where the hands are stretching out into paws, and oh my gosh, he's naked on the floor. He's like writhing around, sweating. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And then his friend Jack comes to visit him, and he kills his. Well, not to give it away, but there's scenes in there that are really disturbing, but it's a little bit of a dark comedy, that movie too. It's not all serious. It's good.
Albert, Kiss meets the Phantom of the Park.
Ooh.
Oh jeez.
Perfect movie.
That movie's terrible.
It's
so terrible.
It was a made for TV, I believe.
I wish we could play that on our show.
Oh my lord.
But we can't. But it's terrible. But it's fun.
It's so good. Yeah,
it's good for a laugh.
Yeah, so Bobby Harvey says Teen Wolf and Teen Wolf 2. Just picked it up on a DVD just a little bit ago. Teen Wolf and it's a double feature. Gotta watch that. Yeah.
Oh, Phantasm. Well, Phantasm was 70s, right?
I think it was late 70s.
Late 70s, and then I think some of the sequels might have been in the 80s.
Yeah, but I do love that movie.
Yeah.
That was
but
my-
Phantasm I thought was more 70s.
Phantasm was my first rated R movie.
Oh, because of the, yeah.
Boobies.
Because of the boobies.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember Mama Monkey sitting there with me, and so in the beginning of the movie, there's a couple in a graveyard, and they're
doing things.
They're doing things.
Yes.
And to get, so she takes off her shirt to get, and then I remember my Mama Monkey going, oh great. Like, she takes me to my first rated R movie, and the first 5 minutes of the movie, boobs are flying out. But I liked it.
Well, yeah.
I don't know if Mama Monkey remembers that, but that was pretty funny. I'll never forget it.
Aw. Cool. 1979 Phantasm.
Yeah,
says
right
Tim.
there.
So it was like
right
right there. So yeah, then the sequels must have been in the 80s.
Good night, Mom. Love you.
I love you guys.
Night, Mama.
Say hi to everybody out there.
Hi, everybody. Have a good day.
Hey, good day. Love it.
Aw.
Be careful with that course. You all right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Mama Monkey says hello to everybody out there watching. Kiss Me's a Phantom is so... The beginning of that movie, again, it's one of those things that has to be with a bookmark. They say, hey, if you're going to recreate like a cheesy 80s, either video or intro for something, Kiss Meets the Phantom. Look, just watch that intro where they're floating around. It's like that bad,
It's
green
so
screen.
bad.
And they're you have to see it to understand. It's just so bizarro.
It's really bad. But it's fun. It's
Jeffrey
fun to
Arnett,
watch.
hi, bye.
Uh,
Lost Boys.
Lost Boys. So yeah, that was on my list too. Lost Boys was late 80s, and that's a lot of people love.
Yeah.
Some people don't like it because it's like kind of like pretty boy vampires.
It's one of those movies to
I thought
me,
it was okay.
It was a little Twilight in a way. Okay?
Yeah, it was like the 80s
Before-
version of Twilight. It
Before
was
Twilight.
like
It really was. It
like
was,
a teenage, like a teeny bopper vampire movie.
And then they had the Frog Brothers, which was like Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, the two Corys.
Yeah.
We're gonna vampire hunters, dude. It's like it was goofy like that. But and don't bite my head off. But to me, it's very much like the Goonies, which I didn't care for that much either.
Blasphemy.
No.
I love the Goonies.
There's a couple funny
I love
the
the
truffle
Goonies.
shuffle or whatever.
No.
But it never
I love it.
I know. Look, everyone has.
And Cyndi
things.
Lauper did the music for
That's
it.
fine. I love Cyndi.
I love Cyndi Lauper.
But like I said, I know there's all those Goonies, but I think for me, the Lost Boys, for my taste, fits in that same category. Where like I saw it, but it didn't stick with me. It didn't like adhere itself.
Can you
to
check
me.
that comment there? Tim says something.
Oh, boobies, life for you. You can show
okay.
that. Oh,
Albert, wow, thank you. A $25 super chat. Wow.
what a guy! What a guy!
Thank
what a
you so
guy.
much. That helps support the channel. It's the virtual version of tipping your bartender or tipping your DJ.
Ooh, Nora Wallace. Yeah, thank you, Albert. That's
So
very, very
thank
nice.
you so much.
Nora Wallace says Wolfen. Just picked that up on VHS the other day. The
Wolfen?
movie Wolfen. Remember?
Yeah, we
That's
haven't
right.
seen that one yet.
I have.
Well, you've seen it. I haven't.
But again, I don't remember it that well. I think it's just about a bunch of wolves running around New York City. That's really what it is. There's no one's changing in anything. But they're kind of werewolves, but they're what they call those things like dire wolves or something. They're just like,
like an in-between.
wild wolves. They're just wild wolves. I don't know. But I have to watch it again. That's why I picked it up.
Oh, Pet Cemetery. Yeah, that's
Ooh.
another like I said, Stephen King played a huge part in 80s horror movies.
Can I say one thing about the original Pet Cemetery and the new one, the
Yes.
remake? A rare case for me, where I like both movies.
I do too.
I
I feel bad for the cat for church. But yeah, I like
Of
both
course.
movies. They are both good.
The remake ended so. I mean, it was kind of like The Mist.
Mhm.
And I know that's not an 80s movie, but that movie. Oh,
Nora Wallace, a $14.99
Oh,
super chat.
thank you,
Wow,
Nora.
thank you so much.
very sweet of you, yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching Wolfen very soon because it's been a minute. I mean, I'm trying to catch up on a lot of these movies that I haven't seen for a long time
Yeah.
and haven't seen at all from the 80s because that's where it was very creative. And to be honest, I mean, to think about, they're remaking a lot of these movies.
They are. They have remade like Fright Night and it wasn't very good.
Please.
They remade Pet Sematary, and that remake was good.
Very
but,
rare.
And that's rare for a remake to be good.
For me, for like both of them.
Yeah.
So, but my point is that you saw
Fly. Ooh, The Fly.
That was a great sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
I'm not a big, and I'm very on the fence with Goldblum because he's that same character in every friggin' movie. He's like, too much of that aloof thing. But as Brundlefly, he's great in that, right?
Yeah, he was good in that.
But I think my point I was trying to say real quick.
Sorry, Grim.
No, you're fine. About the 80s is that everyone was struggling to come up with a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
And not copy anything as much as they could. Now it's all about big cigar. What worked in the 80s had a lot of horror movies. What can we recreate? What can we reboot? Instead of coming up with the newest thing, the coolest thing.
Yeah, it's like they're running out of ideas, or they don't want to take a chance on something different or creative.
Do you know how
they just make all these remakes all the time?
Yeah, Rod Serling just one idea. No, that guy had two different series of the same type of a show where he had like these different stories. Like he had Twilight Zone and Night Gallery. The guy had too many stories.
Yeah. Anthony says Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now that was 70s.
Yeah.
That started in the 70s. Some of the sequels might have been late 70s or early 80s.
Good movie though. One of our favorites.
I don't remember, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorite 70s horror films.
Yeah.
I love that, and Tourist Trap from
1979. Just kind of run under the wire there.
Yeah. And Toby Hooper is, had something to do with both, so.
Twilight Zone, the movie. Have you seen that?
No. No, I have not.
That was one of those movies that we saw multiple times. And Dan Aykroyd's in that movie, by the way. We saw multiple times. And that's another thing. If you're a child of the 80s, if you grew up in the 80s, you went to see movies, and since they didn't come out right away, and if they did, they were expensive, and not many people had VCRs and stuff like that. So you usually go to a movie, and if you liked it, you stayed, you waited 10 minutes, and they would show it again. Or you would pay the $2, whatever it was back there, or $3, $3.50, and go see the movie you liked a few times while it was out.
Yes.
Crazy, right? But Chud we just talked about.
Yeah, check that one comment that came up. It wants you to review it.
Chud?
The Underground Dwellers.
I don't remember that movie that well. I just, like I said, I should have.
Cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers.
Yeah, I wish I would have dubbed them before I sent them out. I did sell both of them.
That's what I need to watch again.
But
I remember renting that with my cousin years ago on tape.
But see, that's that. Oh, hey, we got another.
Connie Cleary, thank you. A $4.99 super chat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connie. But even that movie Chud, right? Okay, that they did an acronym, and it was different. I mean, they tried to do something different. As goofy as the movie is, doesn't matter. The effort to do something that no one else has really done.
Yeah.
Come up with some kind of creepy thing. It was obviously kind of alienish, but it was about these mutants that lived in the sewers.
It was just there was a lot of creativity and people doing different things.
The competition was great. Well, you guys have Alien, we have Chud, and you have this
aliens and slasher killers and all these different monsters and ghosts, and they just, it was all over the place. It was great.
I don't know what year this came out, but another movie of mine that I like, it could be early 80s, is Burnt Offerings.
Oh, that might be 80s.
That was a really creepy movie.
That might be 80s.
It might be super early 80s if it was at all.
They Live. We talked about that earlier. They Live is a great
Tommy
movie.
Knockers is a terrible Stephen King movie. That Stephen King, man, he's cursed with this. I mean, Cujo. Now that's a good scary.
Cujo's a good movie. That was 80s.
That might be hard for me to watch now because of the subject matter and all that. But Maniac Cop. Why would they censor that?
That was definitely 80s.
Other people were another one that we saw.
Hey, Bobby Harvey.
It had America's Mom in there. Dee Wallace. First you had
Dee Wallace.
You had June Cleaver, and then it was Dee Wallace. I mean, she was the one.
She's awesome.
But she's the mom in there. The mom in E.T.
My parents don't like horror movies. I do. They know I love them. Aw.
Horror movies. Who said that?
Says Jennifer Delaney. So my mummy does not like scary movies. She likes those Lifetime movies and Hallmark movies.
Yes, Gene A. Yeah, Burnt Offerings had Karen Black in it as well. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's okay. Everybody's different. But, I liked a lot of the Halloween stuff and spooky stuff.
Yeah.
Scary movies.
The Prowler. Yeah, someone keeps mentioning The Prowler. Nora. Yeah, that's one I haven't seen in
I
a
haven't
long time.
seen The Prowler. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, Nora. I need to.
Yeah, but I forget what year Burnt Offerings came in, but it's about basically a house that will kill you. Good movie. Oh, and speaking of that, another great movie that's very low on the radar from the 80s is Demon Seed.
Oh, that's a cool movie.
Okay, well, what I will say is I did finally found a copy of this thing. It's hard to find. But I found it. We watched it, right? Years ago.
We watched it a couple years ago. Maybe 4 years ago?
Yeah, probably, at least. From what I remember, now this movie used to come on late night television, you know what I mean? Like when I was a kid in the 80s growing up. So then it was more powerful because you see stuff as a kid. It's the first time you see things, and it's at night with with the commercials and all this kind of stuff. So you digest it differently. But watching it again recently, the premise of this movie, think about this, it was a little bit ahead of its time. Actually, it was more based on those Bugs Bunny cartoons from the 40s and 50s where the house would be automated. It would have everything like the robot maid, this, that. Well, this was a house that was fully automated and it would do everything. But it also had...
Oh, yeah, it's creepy.
It had an AI thing going on to where the artificial intelligence...
That's why I will never buy a smart speaker.
And all I'll say is it winds up getting... The house winds up getting... This robot house winds up getting a woman pregnant. That's all I'll say. To have its robot baby. It's really a trippy movie.
It's very strange, but
yeah.
I mean, once you start watching it, you want to keep watching.
But again, it was so far out. It was based on a book, obviously. A lot of these movies back then were based on novels too, by various authors and whatnot. But they would call these really strange sci-fi and horror novels and make some of these movies. Again, we're talking about Stephen King was one of the, and Clive Barker, another author back then that was really
so we also had a
pulled to make movies from.
Let's see, what other 80s?
Flash Gordon, Hellraiser. We taled about that, Bobby.
Tales from the Crypt, was that late 80s or was that more 90s?
That was 90s.
That was 90s.
HBO.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it was good though. But based on comic books from the 50s. So there you go.
Yeah.
The
horror comic books.
And those horror comic books were sometimes, if not at least as violent as the HBO show, even more violent. So there you go. Lake Placid, that was early 90s, I think, about the giant alligator.
Oh, Tales from the Dark Side, that was 80s.
That was late 80s, but that was a TV show.
Yeah, well, I was trying to think because there were some horror TV shows.
Yeah, Freddy's Nightmares.
Yeah, and that was like late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Demon Seed movie, 1977. Wow. Okay, so that
wasn't
qualify.
80s. Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was 80s. Oh, well. It's all sort of a blur right now, especially right this second. No, anyway.
Yeah.
Terminator. Oh, I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's like sci-fi with horror.
Yeah, Terminator blew everyone's mind. That was a great movie, the original. And the original person they were going to cast before Schwarzenegger was who?
That I don't know.
O.J. Simpson.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
He was supposed to get that role, and I don't know what happened. But Street Trash, another great 80s trauma movie.
Yeah.
Really, really good. That one's, they had so many. I mean, and those are the ones I would look for. When I would go to the video store, I knew to look for the trauma movies because it was going to be something I didn't ever see in the movies because they never were released, I don't think, directly. If they were probably small in New York,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those, like, small budget, like, indie movies, like the trauma movies. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of straight-to-video stuff, so you would scour the aisles of your Hollywood Video or Movie Gallery or whatever video store that you remember from back in the day.
The Mutilator, that was Robert Englund, right? I think so.
I don't remember.
Freddy Krueger guy. Yeah, I think so.
He might be.
I think that was a later movie. It might be 90s, though.
I'm trying to remember if I've seen that one.
What about the Scary Movie was until the 90s. That doesn't count.
Yeah, Scary Movie was 90s.
Not a favorite of mine either, by the way.
Yeah, I don't like.
To me, it was just too goofy, and again, it was late. I mean, it's
Halloween series. Yeah, Halloween 3.
Actually, I think they started in the 70s, like late 70s.
Well, it started in the 70s, but yeah, the sequel was in the 80s. Halloween 3 was.
Nora Wallace were right there with you on that one.
Yeah, Halloween 3 is my favorite Halloween.
We try to watch it every Halloween. It's so good. Season of the Witch is awesome.
Yeah, it's very out there. It's very strange.
The Watcher in the Woods. I have that on VHS somewhere. It's a Disney movie, actually.
Oh, wow.
Mummy, 80s. The Awakening, not good. Oh, there was a bunch of Mummy movies that weren't any good. Oh, Tales of the Unexpected. That was a good one too.
Mhm.
Late 80s.
Puppet Master was late 80s.
That's Full Moon.
Yeah, it's Full Moon. Yeah, Puppet Master I think started late 80s.
Which to me was very trauma-esque in a way because they put out all these crazy movies. Again, I mean, they're not copying, they're not remaking, they're not rebooting.
They're making their own stories, their own movies, no remake.
What's going on with that?
Yeah.
Oh, I just don't get it. I just don't understand it.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked so far we've talked about like the 80s movie, the video stores, VHS.
Yeah.
And the all the different stuff going on with that.
Well, and we're really quick
pizza,
too.
you'd get your pizza, get your movie.
Yeah. And something else we talked about that I kind of realized, because the whole, speaking of the 80s movies like Ghostbusters and reboots, when they rebooted the Ghostbusters franchise recently.
Oh, we already talked about that.
No, we didn't. Not to what I was going to say. The comparison I made.
Okay.
Was because it's a conversation that we just had the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And it dawned on me, all this time I was trying to figure out a way to explain how I felt about the new Ghostbusters remake, because there, obviously are people that are very into the female empowerment part of it. Okay, that's fine, but, and that's not what I'm talking about. I don't know why they just didn't continue it. And here's...
Well, we talked about that last week, Graham.
No,
or a couple weeks ago, actually.
No, you and I just talked about this the
No,
other
but
day.
we have talked about the Ghostbusters stuff for...
I know that, but,
Okay.
but what I'm trying to say, if you let me explain it,
Okay.
is that the show Cobra Kai, which is not a horror-related thing, but is an 80s thing. Okay,
Yes.
It's an iconic movie based on the iconic movie, The Karate Kid, that came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
Who cares about the genre? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about if the remakes and stuff like that. So some people are saying, well, Cobra Kai, what's all the hype about, blah, 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 blah. And we love the series.
Mm-hmm.
We love the 3
It's
seasons
a great series.
that are on Netflix. We loved it because we were familiar with the original canon and the movies. And what they did, they didn't reboot it. They continued it.
Yes, it was a continuation and it was a series.
Yeah. And of course, those guys are older and they're doing what they can do to do the karate, but they fill in the kid part with their children and stuff like that.
But we're talking about 80s horror films.
So here's my point. Well, Ghostbusters came up. So my point is like with anything, and that's my main point is this: if Hollywood wants to take stuff from any era, the 70s, the 60s, the 80s, where they have these like, great iconic things. Take a note from Cobra Kai.
Learn from that and make a series about it.
Continue it or make it a part of keep it because when you mess with an original.
Can you imagine if they had like a Nightmare on Elm Street or like Well, what if they made?
They did reboot that.
Yeah, but what if they made like a real good like a Netflix series?
They could.
Like with these 80s
The
movies.
Nightmare Continues or whatever. Yeah, they could definitely do something where, and Robert Englund is probably still up for doing something. If they're throwing up cash, he'll do Freddy Krueger.
Probably.
And
I mean, he's still acting.
Well, prosthetics and special effects are good enough. They could recreate that character.
Yeah.
The studio probably owns that character, that likeness. So they could probably recreate the whole thing.
I mean, that would be cool. Like, all those movies that people like, rather than remaking them, just make a series.
Yeah, or continue it from there.
They've tried that with, like Psycho, Bates Motel.
But I heard, people
stuff like
love
that.
We watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, I liked what I saw.
Yeah,
I didn't watch the whole thing.
We didn't commit, but what I did see, I thought it was a great idea. And all they did was they tried to flesh out the whole Norman Bates story, before he went, before the Psycho movie.
Like if they made a Poltergeist series.
Yeah, but they didn't.
Yeah.
But what they didn't do is go, forget what you saw, the Janet Leigh scene in the shower and all that, blah, blah, blah. What Hitchcock didn't know what he was doing. No, Hitchcock knew exactly what he was doing.
They just played off of that.
Right.
They didn't, act like the original never existed.
Right. And movies like Ghostbusters, why would you even...
I don't know. I think Ghostbusters is cursed at this point.
Oh boy, don't even touch it. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Actually, it's probably more like 5 cents.
Albert, wow.
What?
Thank you so much.
Ooh, Bobby Harvey Jr. with the winner here.
Had a good one to say, but I forgot. Thank you so much.
Bobby
Albert.
Harvey Jr. This is a good one too. Waxworks, another good.
Yeah.
I think that might have been a full moon. I forget.
Well, I think we should wrap this up. I'm getting tired.
I'm not. I'm just getting started. I'm just kidding.
Let's wrap this up in another minute.
Look at this. I gotta.
There's so many good ones. You guys are real chatty. This is great.
And I'm screen capping some of this so I can look up some of this stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies we need to look up and watch
Satan.
too.
Mars Attacks was 90s.
Yeah, Mars Attacks was like 90.
The Boogans, yeah.
93, 96.
Strange Invaders. That's a good one too. You guys are right there with us. It's good to hear that. I'm sorry if I rambled a little bit, but I was just trying to make a point.
It's okay.
That, you know, my point with all that was, if they're going to try to, yes, go back to the 80s, like Cobra Kai, bring some of that stuff back.
Oh yeah.
But don't crap on the original, you know, unless you revamp something that is garbage and know how to fix it. There's two different ways to go about this, but something that's iconic, I would say, be very careful about, you know, redoing it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for chatting with us, and this has been a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm thinking, you know, maybe next time. Oh, we won't be going live February 5th, but we are going to do a Halloween show.
Yeah, so we won't be doing this Halloween show.
Or not.
Woo! You are sleepy.
Valentine's
wow,
show.
you were waiting. Wow, what happened to you?
Which is second Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
Valentine's Day is just another.
She calls
Halloween.
it that. Yeah,
it's second Halloween.
She's not a Valentine's person.
Yeah.
But we won't be on doing this next Friday night.
But we will still be putting content on our YouTube channel.
Throughout
on our YouTube channel and on Facebook.
Always, yeah.
So please hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't done so, and then you can follow us on Facebook or like the page.
Yeah.
We're the Mummy and the Monkey on Facebook, and we're the Mummy and the Monkey on Instagram.
Wait, we were muted all this time?
Oh,
so you fall for it every time. Like, how could we be muted anymore?
You scare me with that.
Okay.
All right, thank you guys so much. Mwah! Good night. Good fright.
That's right. And have a little stuff for a late night snack. Delicious.
Oh my.
All right, we'll see you later, alligators.
Bye-bye. Banana chocolate chip cookies.
I got this. You got your banana chocolate chip cookie and my stuff.
You got your stuff on my banana chocolate chip cookie.
We got a new product here. Good night, everybody.
Good night.